welcome Professor Sandeep Sancheti to our campus Charcha today. Sandeep, thank you so much for sparing the time.
Thank you,
It's
Pramath.
great. It's great to have you. We've interacted so many times in the past, but I'm really looking forward to this slightly deeper and longer conversation, which one never gets time for in these panels and short meetings that one does. So it's just the two of us, and we can have a deep conversation. Uh, the topic for the day today is really the continuous learning and technology and how that has affected all our lives. And no one better than Sandeep to talk about this with us. Let me take a few quick minutes to introduce him. I think Sandeep would be considered a true blue institution builder, given how many institutions he has been associated with in their founding stages. And he's obviously at heart uh, all about higher education. He's done a lot of work in higher education policy. He writes about it. He's a big promoter of sports in higher education, and of course, uh, as I said earlier, has been involved in the setting up of many institutions. His academic background is that he's actually a PhD from the Queen's University of Belfast, and a master's from what is now DTU in Delhi, and a BTech from NIT Warangal. Currently, he's the Vice Chancellor at Marwadi University in Rajkot. And what is also significant is that he is also the past president of the Association of Indian Universities. I got to know Sandeep over the last decade or so, and I remember, was part of led the Manipal campus in Jaipur as the founding Vice Chancellor, and was also at the SRM IST in Chennai as Vice Chancellor. I may have got the designations wrong, Sandeep. Apologize, but I know that. Uh, yeah, I think at both the Jaipur position is precedent, because I think that's what the Rajasthan terminology is.
That's
And
right.
in Chennai, you were the Vice Chancellor. You've also done the Commonwealth Scholarship. He's been a recipient under the Colombo Plan of the Commonwealth Scholarship and Fellowship, and he's also taught at the Asian Institute of Technology in Bangkok. Sandeep, let's go dive directly into the topic of the day. And would you like to start by saying what are some of the big trends that you personally see? Everybody writes about trends these days, but
Yeah.
I would be keen to know, given your vast experience, what is your take on the top few things that you see changing with regard to technology and higher education?
Thank you, Pramath. Thank you, Harappa Education, for this opportunity. Yes, it's a great time for me also to interact with you and also share my views on this important topic of technology and continuous learning. So my simple take is the world. If I look at the historical perspective, I'll probably say that the world has always been following the technology or always had an impact of technology in a very, very big way. Whether we recognize it or not, or whether we take it as a status granted or status quo because of our background is a different thing. But if you start possibly with what we call wheel, which might have been much old, part of technology, and that's where the technology started evolving. But if we take last 200 years, I think things like steam engine, electricity, motive power, flying machines, nuclear technologies, all that defined what we call our living, our life, our society, whatever it may be. It of course led to industrialization and also maybe urbanization, as we are trying to see. And you can say that on a slightly longer front, it probably led to the world wars and trade wars. It also changed the boundaries, which are called as physical, social, political, financial, relational, functional. Now, in all these answers which I have given you, or technologies which I have given to you, there is not even an iota of technology or technology in education or education itself. And therefore, what I see now is education also coming in this space. The boundaries of physical, social, political, financial, relational, functional, everything changed, but the educational boundaries didn't change. You probably know more than me or many other experts would know that education 1.0 was nothing but Gurukul-like teaching, learning, or whatever. And of course, very famous, very effective, and even now people will follow it and like it maybe. But 2.0 was something which was owed to technology, the printing technology, the books, the massification of education which came. Education 3.0 is possibly computer and internet and all that. And once again, great deal of opening up of education. But I don't think so any of these things actually came into being because the educational requirements were there. No, those were not there. So what I'm seeing in education 4.0, which will be a student-centric education, that the new technologies will be developed purely for what we call the educational purposes. Once again, I'll take a small example. I gave you the examples of steam engine, electricity, whatever other things which were there, which were probably 100, 200 years old. But if you look at 50, 60 years spectrum time, probably semiconductors, computers, internet, mobile, and now AI. These are the technologies which are defining our life. In fact, three of them put together, semiconductors, computers, and internet put together, have been said to be world's top three technologies ever emerging or evolved. Now, these were never developed for education, but they were used in education heavily. Today, we would not have done this interaction without semiconductors or computers or internet. We know that, and we would not have survived with education in COVID times without all these. So what I'm foreseeing right now, Pramathji, is that henceforth, education will also embrace technology in a big way. It will be like fish to water, and there will be new technologies which we develop purely for educational purposes. So that's my important take on technology in
Sandeep,
education.
can I pause you, because I think you're making a very important point, and I'm only pausing not to challenge or interrupt, but to capture the point, because I think you're making a very important point. So you are saying, listen, you are calling it firstly education 4.0. So this is kind of like the fourth avatar.
Yeah.
And of course, it all started with people sitting at the feet of the guru and learning from them.
Correct.
But then I think significantly you are noting, and I often also talk about it, printing technology was the first technology that, by the way, that was also invented to print Bibles.
Yeah.
But again, I think it became much more central to education, and that led to the current system.
That's
You are
right.
saying 3.0 is the use of technology in education.
Yeah.
But interestingly, 4.0 you are saying is to the genuine and creation of new technology that is only for education, or to
Yeah.
force the point, right?
Yeah, I will, of course, I'm not the one to define education 4.0. I came to know about it maybe 5 years, 6 years back at common platforms where you and we will be together.
Sure.
And this 4.0 is student-centric. Student-centric is basically a student enjoying higher degree of autonomy, or more clearly said, personalization of education. And this personalization of education cannot happen unless either we have one-to-one teachers, go back to Gurukul times, smaller classes and all that, or else we use the technology. So I would say that education 4.0 is student-centric education, but this student centricity would be achieved only through technological interventions. I
Yeah.
give you many examples of technologies. They all owe their existence either to the wars which we have fought, or to the health concerns and the medical concerns which we have had in the past. You probably know that where internet came into being, where the optical things came into being, various things which are there. Mobile was for a defense application. Slowly and steadily, they percolated into our life once the defense business was kind of weakening or whatever. So it was just an after impact or after effect of those technologies which has flowed into education. But in education 4.0, I'm expecting, and it should happen, that the new things should emerge purely because of the educational requirement, and then they should flow to other directions.
Wonderful. That's great insight, and I'm sure that for our viewers it's a good way to think about the future. So what else flowing from there, would you like to move on to?
Sure. I would also, going back to our topic itself, if I can say so, I talked about technology a little bit, that what I perceive as a change which technology will see. But let's talk about education also, because the two are to be related. And
Yeah.
in education, yes, education is happening between an age of whatever, 3 to 25 or 4 to 25, depending upon where you are. And when it comes to higher education, it may be between 18 to 25, at the most 30.
Yeah.
But today we are talking of an age where you can possibly say things are changing very fast. You know that most of us, when we were doing our engineering, probably we were at the most data and information driven.
Yeah.
But now we are said to be knowledge driven. And of course, there is a statement from IBM, which we know that knowledge is going to double at a rate of 12 hours in from the year 2020. We already crossed that. Maybe COVID had an impact on that, but that's an indication. Let's not worry about the measurement doubling or tripling for 12
Sure.
hours, but it's indication that there is a knowledge tsunami. Now, how do you deal with tsunamis? Tsunamis we have never known, we have never been able to predict, and therefore we'll have to use technology to whatever little extent we can possibly do. And that is what I would say is going to come into picture. And so therefore, this domain of education is changing. One, because the expectations of data and information have changed to knowledge. Knowledge has again gone to, in my opinion, wisdom. There is no point in having knowledge in me if I cannot really apply in a contextual way. Relevance is equally important, and nowadays people talk of impact. You've already seen the impact factors for papers, and I'm pretty sure that very soon there'll be impact factor for Nobel laureate also. You might have been Nobel laureate, you might have done something, but have you created the impact or not? Probably that would be the measure of even Nobel laureates, in my opinion. So world is changing in that particular sense. And to do all that, what you have said up till impact or relevance or wisdom, I think you will have to continuously charge yourself. Those terms are very common and known: learn, unlearn, relearn. And that means that you'll have to continuously charge yourself. And therefore, the importance of education would become continuous education, not only education. Now, continuous education for two reasons. I'll divide my continuous education in two parts, Pramath. Number one, the continuous education would be for matured learners, 25 to 75, or 30 to 80, whatever bracket you can do. You need to do it for 5 more decades after you graduate. Otherwise, you will not be fit in the world if you are in a professional world. Of course, business and other things may have different demands. And therefore, we should create platforms, and I'm sure Harappa is doing that, and many of us will take advantage and follow that. And therefore, those will be important for continuous education, that at every 5 years or 3 years or 4 years time duration, I'll have to study something new and forget something old, which I was probably trying to do. And we know in products and processes, and so would be in the education, that many things have become completely obsolete, not necessarily fully useless, but still obsolete. So that's one part of continuous education. The second part of continuous education is when you are doing your degrees and regular study in an academic institution. By that, I mean that earlier when we graduated, once in a year, in last couple of months or 1 month, you study, get good grades, and you say, hey, yes, I'm done. I'm very good student. I'm academically perfect. Now, today, this will not make you survive. You'll have to learn from many methods. You'll have to learn every week. There'll be surprise tests. There'll be internal components. And therefore, this continuous education concept, or continuous learning concept, you can say, education is anyway teaching, learning, but these days focus is more on learning than teaching. And therefore, this will be very, very important, continuous learning. And for continuous learning, obviously, we are trying to do many, many important things to support them. I think easy answer for giving that is SWAYAM and MOOC, which are becoming very common, omnipresent world over. In India, India also started NPTEL experiment like MOOC 20 years back, fairly successful in my opinion. Please see that what is it doing? This SWAYAM or MOOC or whatever these things which are there are providing the access, the equity, the quality. The same course you can take from Oxford or Harvard, I can also do it, and someone from village can also do it. Cost probably will be the same. And therefore, you can say that the continuous education is driving what we call access, equity, and quality in a certain way. Similarly, you can say that the new job roles are getting defined. There's a lot of ho-halla about what will happen to the jobs, who is going to be in the job, what kind of jobs are required, new roles. And even for that, I think skilling will come into picture, or vocational aspects will come into picture. And therefore, this continuous education will always be getting redefined in a context. You may always do it every decade. The problem in Indian context in understanding education is, and this is with due respect to all the statutory bodies, respectable people in that, you are in one of them, I am also in them. But we have not done the due diligence or duty in terms of what we need to do. We have never been able to predict what do we need. How many mechanical or civil engineers do we require? How many others? Maybe chartered accountancy is a little bit more controlled environment, but rest of the disciplines, people come in herds and go out in herds without knowing what is their fate and what is required and all that. So what we really need to do in education, and obviously through continuous education, is keep changing them. I might have become an engineer without a purpose, without a reason. But after having come to that, through some sort of a continuous education effort, if I can be directed, if I can be guided, possibly I will make my life and make contribution to the economy and the society. So these are some of the things which I would possibly say, Pramathji, that directions we need to take.
Right. So I think the additional 2 points, if I may again just capture what you're saying for the audience, is that with the workplace and job roles constantly changing, as well as the requirements in general of of working professionals and people changing, you are saying continuous learning is another reality.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that through your lifetime, you are not going to be able to keep going back to university,
Yeah.
to a physical space each time.
Correct.
So again, you need technology from that perspective.
Yeah.
So earlier, the student centricity was to provide personalized learning. This is a different kind of student centricity, which is to provide continuous learning. And the only way you can do that at scale is using technology.
Yes.
Right. Now, obviously, Sandeep, the issues that keep coming up with this, is this good enough? Is this true high quality access? I already see the usual questions coming up about interactivity and so on. Uh, Now, obviously, you must have a take on how you answer these questions, because obviously you are a believer, I am too. But I think it helps to learn from how people are actually tackling this issue in terms of thinking about it even. And what is your take on this whole issue of, oh, this will never work, right? Because how will people ever learn? How will they complete? How will there be interactive learning? What about the classroom experience and so on? So what's your take on that?
All of us, unfortunately, have the same mentality. Status quo is the easiest thing we can generally follow. Inertias are there. These are natural phenomena, I would say. I will not curse anyone for that, but they don't necessarily make more progress if they live with those things for long. And therefore, it's also well accepted fact that the change is the order of the day, and change is the constant which we live in today. And you raised a very pertinent point. Once I'm teaching in classes and once I'm using technology, I will only call this as a blended teaching learning. A lot of people like it and fall for it, and a lot of people curse it. I don't mind whatever they may do, but they'll have to look at their life, that how much of their life, forget about education, is without technology. Are we into eating and entertainment without technology? Are we into communication or travel, maybe mobiles and automobiles without technology? No. I think technology has come everywhere. So my advice to my viewers here would be not to resist it. The beauty with mixing the way you like is that, number one, right now everything is synchronous education. One size fits all. Whether I'm a poor student and you are a smart student, we'll all be given the same dose. I think naturally it's an incorrect process. Everything will be synchronous, whereas my body may require some asynchronicity. I would like to read or study things at night. I think those things are not allowed. So those will have to be respected, as we are seeing in the younger population, that they do things their own way. But if I have to counter that, whether there'll be a serious learning, whether there'll be an eye contact, and whether there'll be real learning, everyone says there are statistics that the attention level in a given class probably would be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, those kind of attention levels are there. But in a mixed mode, the focus can be for longer time because I indulge into different activities and I have physical movements, various other things which are there. I can possibly have instant diagnostics of what I'm doing because I'm using technology. Otherwise, teacher cannot give me whether I'm learning seriously or my mind is wavering somewhere else when I'm sitting in his class or her class. No. When I'm sitting in a class, conventional class, can I do a student to student interaction? No. It will be construed as disturbance or perturbance to the class. Teacher is likely to punish me the moment I do it. So collaboration is stopped right in the beginning. The bud is not allowed to grow or come out. And therefore, we always think that we don't have to talk, and people develop that tendency. The toppers sit in the front and they get isolated from people like who are backbenchers. Some of us, I was one of them, and we didn't get any help from our students, though we were good, but we didn't get any help. The point I'm trying to make to you is, with the technology coming in, all these things will go away. You will also have this self-drive and ownership. You will have increased interest. You will be able to give the feedback to teacher or to the institution, to anyone, almost daily, instantly if required. Otherwise, it's done as a tokenism once in a semester. That too after end of the semester. It's just for sake of it, nothing else. Maybe you get marks by NAC and NBA for that, and it's otherwise of not great deal use. And ultimately think, student interaction can be through blogging, can be through sticky notes, they can post it, can be through shared documents. All that does not happen very easily in the non-technological world or in the classroom environment only. And therefore, you can say that while there is a beauty in face-to-face learning or conventional learning, no one is denying that. But the future will be of blended learning. And blended learning, ideally, for a given course will be defined by the teacher. The teacher says, okay, I'm going to do this. And by the way, I was part of a committee which submitted its report to UGC on a blended teaching learning. And this report was made public just 4 or 5 days back as a concept note. And in that, we have given enough details. And one can vary from 0 to 100 or 0 to 40 or 0 to 60 in different ranges and different categories of various things. And we have tried to explain the models also. So blended doesn't mean that you are giving a fixed proportion of everything. No, blending is based on what teachers can do for a given subject. But a student can choose the blending, that I want to do engineering with economics and music, maybe with the sports or whatever. That kind of a blending will be at the level of students. So blending is a very, very wide open term. I will say its scope is almost from minus infinite to plus infinite, and therefore it will rejuvenate or reignite the education which just became very stereotyped. Go sit in the class, get 75% attendance, get 60% marks with the way the markings and examinations happen these days and various other things which are there. Passing becomes relatively easily. So the impact of education in India was getting diluted, and I'm sure this will be reignited or redone to make it more worthwhile. I can give you endless examples, Pramadji, on the points which I'm trying to make, but I'll let you interrupt and give me some direct pointed.
I think the pointed question is coming to some examples, but before I do that, I hear you say two or three things. One, what are we comparing with, right? I think what you're saying is, given how poor the quality of education has in general become in the classroom, right? Of course, if you compare to the very best standard of classroom education, then we are not trying to match that. But if you
Yeah,
actually look at the general quality of education, which is all about the rote learning, very little interaction, not enough feedback,
yeah,
uh, this is almost a godsend in terms of making sure that a lot of those ills are removed from the system.
correct.
But what I also hear you say between the lines is
Yeah,
that why compare? Why compare? If this is a new opportunity, try and make the best of that opportunity and see it as an opportunity rather than a constant comparison to what we anyway did not have, right?
yes,
And I think people like you, and to some extent people like me, have started to view it that, what more can I do to bring in interactivity? Maybe not have all the answers,
correct.
but what more can we do? I'd like to therefore ask you, and I think in our earlier conversations you've talked about virtual labs and so on.
That's right.
What are some interesting examples that can fire up people's imagination about what you can do? And talk to us a little bit about the inevitable question that comes up, that, hey, it's all very well to say blended learning, but what if I have a large number of students in my class, right? Will it not ultimately become all async? Because I can't do blended for very large numbers. There's a limit there also. So just your views on both those.
Okay, I think that's a very good question. If we take the conventional teaching learning, I will divide into three parts. One is the classroom teaching, another one is the laboratory teaching, skills or whatever laboratory, and so on. And the third one is the examinations and assessment. Now, all of them are going to change. You talked about VE Lab. I'll talk about it a little later. I'll first say that the classroom were considered to be the four walls of a physical space with brick and mortar, which you used to call classroom. Inside, there may not be good enough floor or roof or fan or a good enough board or lighting, but we still called classroom. I think that was a pathetic condition in many institutions. But most of them will make it 66 square meters or 100 square meters, whatever is required, so that they fulfill the norm. Now, fortunately, this is going to be punctured in terms of requirement. Every space in the world, whether I'm in a market space, whether I'm in an industry, whether I'm with my friends on a coffee shop, it will be my classroom. The classroom will be happening because I can do collaborative learning when I have devices and when I'm connected, and when I'm connected with my teacher, with my friends, with my seniors, with whosoever my mentor may be. So classrooms would not be conventional blackboard or whiteboard or a projection classroom. They will be flipped classroom. There'll be self-learning classroom. There'll be MOOCs. There'll be flipped MOOCs. There will be hackathons, which will be classrooms, and various things in the domain of what you call industry and society, problem solving. When you go to village and when you go under Unnat Bharat and do something to that village, I think those will be the classrooms. So that's one change. Lab obviously was a bottleneck, and that is the reason why distance education and online education was not amenable for engineering. Probably that was the reason why some of the professional bodies offering courses like Institution of Engineers and others probably were stopped wrongly, in my opinion, but they were stopped from doing those things. Now that VLab, virtual lab or online lab or whatever you can call it, there are different names which are given to this. Government of India started in 2010. Fortunately, this has gained momentum since eruption of COVID or COVID-like situation. People sitting at home, they can do it. It's very easy for computer-related disciplines to do that. But now all mechanical, civil, electrical can also do that. The beauty with this virtual lab, Pramathji, is that this lab is 24/7, whereas most of the labs which we create in our institutions will be used for 4 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours in whole week when the class hours are there. Rest of the time it is closed generally. Now this will be 24/7. Imagine the utilization or efficiency. This lab will also allow students to perform experiment individually, whereas generally we do it in a group of 3, 4, 5. This lab will also allow me to repeat the experiments as many times as I want. This concept will also allow me to do the labs which are very advanced, because my institution may not have the advanced lab, but I can still log in into an IIT or some other institution and do my virtual lab experimentation hardly without any with any charge or whatever. I can repeat the number of experiments till I'm satisfied with that. I can play with the extremities of experiment by applying more pressure, voltage, current, whatever it may be. And yet I'll not be able to destroy the equipment because the internal controls are there in the software when I'm doing virtual lab. Whereas in a physical mode, if a teacher or a technician is not paying the attention, a student may damage the equipment. So there are lots of beauties which are there with the virtual lab, and I'm sure it will bring down the cost. It will bring the advanced knowledge to them. For example, in our Marwadi University, we already created high performance computing. It's very, very essential. Not necessarily that you have to come to the lab. You can sitting in your corner, in your home, in your room, you can access those facilities and learn about what we are doing in HPC. My students should not worry about HPC. Many institutions, I created facilities like I'm an electronics engineer, but never in our life we made even a single diode, whereas we are talking of billions and trillions of transistors in a chip. Now we have started making sure that at least they make one single transistor. So that's the beauty which we need to do in the laboratory work, that we need to improve it drastically. That has really become substandard in Indian context with the cheap demo equipments coming in. So I'm happy that the technological world is changing. And the last, of course, is the examination, the third part. Obviously, examinations will be continuous. Obviously, examinations will be online, which is being done for the last 1.5 years, many cases, and many international bodies are anyway doing GMAT, GRE, or TOEFL, and SAT, and all that were happening. And even in our case, we started with GATE, etc., going online, and then of course JE, etc., also going online. So that's good. But the new changes in examination will be open book. Why? Because open book is a real life examination. No one is going to ask me in my work profile or domain that Professor Sancheti, give me an answer if you remember it and produce it in 3 hours. No, they will tell me you get this answer from anywhere in the world, from your friends, from internet, from books, whatever other things. So open book is the life, and we need to prepare them for open book examination system. We should give them examination on demand. I'm saying on demand, like I said, education on demand, examination. Our life, if I give you 2 examples only, my food and clothing. Who decides? Is it my teacher? Is it my father? Is it someone in my family? Yes, they may influence me, that's fine, but I decide what to wear today and when and what to eat and how much to eat. I think if my life's important parameters are in my control, I'm happy. Education is your life today. Without education, a person is like a room without a window. And therefore, education is a life. Let education or examination also be on demand. When I'm ready, I should say, hey, take my examination. If I pass, give me credits, give me degree, whatever, otherwise forget about it. And then one thing which you said about India, that our average performance is not good. Some good institutions, some good students are there. My take, if I'm given the charge and responsibility, my take is improve the average Indian performance. And for that, the group education is important, which anyway is happening, but group evaluations are equally important. That if I'm made to sit with you, you are a topper and I'm a bottomer, and we are a group, and if 30% of your marks depend on my marks or overall group marks, then you will obviously be tempted to teach Sandeep Sancheti that, hey, please learn this so that our average marks are good. So group evaluations, all those things will be very important. And also one last thing about exams is too much focus on what we call degree. We may get it by hook or crook is a different thing, but too much emphasis. Now this emphasis is going to go away. All the new education is going to be basically credit based, in my opinion. And credits is what you will keep earning, accumulating, using, and those credits will not necessarily be requiring to be converted into certificates or diplomas or degrees. So these are the changing phases of teaching, learning, primarily the classrooms, virtual labs, or the labs, and the examinations.
Very comprehensive. Thank you for that. And we will come back to credit based, because I think that's such a central piece to everything you are saying, especially when it comes to personalized as well as continuous learning. But I do want to take a few more minutes to assuage some concerns it seems that our viewers have, and it always keeps coming up. One of which is, are we going to disintermediate the teacher, right? So Sridharan Raj Gopal's question is, will the future hybrid education have an impact on unemployability in the teaching field, right? And is the ICT basically going to replace teachers completely or partially, right? This is always a fear with any technology, right? Even I was reading that when electricity came into the city of New York, the people who used to go out and light the gas lamps on the streets started to protest and go on strike because they said, listen, our jobs are going to go away. So technology does that to jobs, and this kind of fear is there in people's mind. What is your take on that?
Thank you for this question. Thank you, Professor Sridharan also. My take is also an example like what you have given. When we started making automobiles, did we worry about the bullock carts at that time? I don't think so. There was no hue and cry that stop making automobiles because they will drive the people out from that kind of a job. The point is that no one takes no one's space. There will be a new emergence of new technology and there will be a new space which gets created. There is no way a teacher is going to be redundant. Teacher's role, in my opinion, which I understood some 15 years back, though I'm in profession for 37 years, but I'll say that more clearly I've understood some 15, 20 years back, is assimilation of knowledge, dissemination of knowledge, and generation of knowledge. Now, my answer would be look at ourselves. Ourselves means not individually, collectively. Find out what are we doing. Assimilation, yes, fine. We accumulate and we do whatever. We disseminate because that is our role in the classroom and we do and deliver that. But how about generation of knowledge? How many claims do we have on the new knowledge, new technologies, new processes, new theories? Yes, there are examples in India. People like J.C. Bose or C.V. Raman, if I talk about science, have done. But how many? Very, very few. Our generation of knowledge has been very poor. Can machines do generation of knowledge? Can technology do generation of knowledge? No. Teachers will remain. The focus has shifted to generation of knowledge, in my opinion, for teachers. No one is going to make teachers redundant unless we ourselves don't change. If I don't change, my death is sure. If I don't deliver, my job is gone. If I don't do something which is interesting to my stakeholders, my job will be at stake. And therefore, the change will be must. Change is bound to happen. Let's not worry about it. But how much change is to be given in a given context, teacher has to decide. How much would be the blending? How much use of technology? How much use of openness? Not everything. I know that some of you may claim that how would you use technology in a history subject? And I will give you an example. I'll make the history most interesting subject by using the time machine concept, by using I will create those positions of 405 years, 100 years back or 800 years back, the Darbar of, let's say, Maharana Pratap or Akbar or someone, and the fights of Plassey and Haldi Ghatis and all that I can recreate using the time machine concept. Virtual reality, augmented reality, all put together. And if I teach history through that, you can imagine the kind of deeper learning a student would have. And therefore, it's for a teacher to decide. Teachers should not fear. Have you feared technology in your normal life? Have you ever said that I'll wear only khadi, which was done by the charkha and not by the conventional things and not necessarily by the synthetic and woolen and other things which were there? Have you disowned the vehicles and mobiles in your life? So why would you disown technology in education would be my answer. However, I must give you one typical answer here. The real big fear, Pramadji, in people's mind generally is that this digital divide. Do you agree with that? Let me ask you one before I try to say something. Do you agree with that or not?
No, I think that was one of the questions I was going to ask you later. In fact, it has come up from Dr. Kapil Dev Sharma. I think you must be reading that also. And I think the digital divide is real. And it's not just in education, it's in all fields.
Yeah.
But that's a separate problem that we have to solve, right?
Yes. So I'll still try to answer it in some way, because that's an obvious question the moment you talk of technology and blended learning. It was there in my mind. So once I got an invitation from you, I looked at some aspect of this because I was expecting this kind of a
Please.
question.
Yeah, please.
And only yesterday I could lay my hands on a report called UN Council for Trade and Development, UNCTAD, which was published 2021. It quotes ITU, and it also quotes the 2018-19 data of ITU because there is a lag in information collection and processing and report generation.
Yeah.
And based on that, the mobile cellular subscription per 100 inhabitants in developing world, I'm not isolating India and they're not given a India-centric report. In developing world is 103 out of 100 persons living, 103 is the cellular subscription in the developing world, and in the developed world, it's 128. We are also 100% and above. Active mobile broadband subscribers, once again with the same base out of per 100 inhabitants, you can say developing nations are around 75. The access to active mobile broadband is 75. And in the case of developed world, it's 83, not much different. Similarly, mobile coverage by LTE. LTE is nothing but lighter mode of the 4G technology. Of course, we're talking of 4G, 5G.
Yeah.
And our access is close. Developing world's access is close to 80%, and the advanced world, Americas and Europes and others, is 92.6%. So I don't see this to be much different. And if you look at the cost of the data in terms of cost per, you can say charge per mega bytes or gigabytes or whatever it may be, India is one of the cheapest. So what I generally tend to call digital divide, yes, has become popular because no technology can suddenly flow from zero to infinite. Did we get the cars? Did we get the old vaccines for typhoids and malarias and other things on the day one or day zero or year zero, if I may say so? No. Technology takes its time because it needs to be produced, it needs to be matured, and then only it needs to be adopted, and there is a cost to it. So digital divide has become famous because it percolates sometimes slowly. But look at some of the examples, if I may give you, to convince you that it's not going to happen in future like this. Telephone took 75 years to reach 50 million. 75 years. The TVs took 22 years. I'll say electricity took 46 years to reach 50 million. TVs took 22 years to reach 50 million. Computers, 14 years only. And internet, 7 years. And let me not talk about the Instagrams and Facebooks and other things. These might be in months and days. And therefore, technology can be adopted very fast, provided we have that mindset, we don't resist it. And therefore, my final answer to this question is digital henceforth cannot be a divide. Digital is going to be a provide. That's my take on the technology and digital.
I like that. Digital has to be a provide. And one other thing which goes back to the point I was making, Sandeep, earlier. Relative to what? Do you think we have a classroom divide in the country today? Do we have a school and college divide? Do we have a quality school and college divide? That's huge. There are so many areas that are completely education dark, right? So what are we comparing this digital divide to? And I'm not wishing it away or saying poo-pooing it and saying it's not an important point. I also want to add a interesting statistic that I came across recently. I sit on the board of the Teach for India initiative in India. And during this pandemic, they also were hit by the digital divide because they were trying to provide education to the school children in these remote schools and in some tough areas of urban centers, which is where they operate. So they started doing teaching or lessons through the mobile phone and through devices. They suddenly found that students were obviously being disadvantaged, that even if they had the mobile phone in the home, the parents were using it. So they started to fundraise and distribute devices, right, with tablets. It is staggering to see how much the students sitting at home, when they got a dedicated tablet, the level of engagement is sky high, right? Which you can measure, like you were saying earlier. Now you can actually measure what people are doing, how much time they're spending, are they learning or not, and what is the feedback. So I do think that even if this digital divide is real, it does seem that if you actually put a device in the hand of the student who is actually motivated, right? This is a kid who is aspirational, who knows that for them education is so important, that the engagement levels were staggering. So I do think that if we can solve the problem of getting the devices out to remote areas, I think we will bridge the classroom divide much faster than we have been able to do 75 years after independence.
You are very right, Pramadji, in saying that. Let me support your answer or your point by going back 10 years or 15 years to an example called Akash. Though
Yes.
Akash was not successful by itself, but it shook the world. The
Yeah.
prices of tabs coming crashing down like crazy.
Yeah.
India at that point of time had a dream to give possibly a device less than 100 or $80. And because of that, the whole world started working on that. And today it is a reality. Not today, it became a reality few years back.
Yeah.
And therefore, that is the impact of technology. Technology can multiply very fast compared to anything else. And that's what we see. Technology can go from zero to omnipresence very, very easily. Now, since people say that technology divides or we are divided, I agree. As society, as a world, we are divided. We like Harvards and Stanfords. We also like IITs, and there are levels and there are divisions who can afford this and that. That's fine. But with the technology, I can do all those courses from Stanfords and IITs also sitting in my room where I'm sitting right now. And therefore, that divide is getting bridged to some extent, in my opinion. I will study from the same teacher whom you might have seen physically. I may not see him physically, but I'll still get the same kind of a zest or knowledge from him, which is recorded, edited, refined without wastage of time, without much of cost. And I can repeat it 10 times. Whereas when you sit in the class, you will only hear him once if you are so fancied about face to face. And that is the change which is there. I must give you an example of this division. I have a servant in home, and in my next room, he is probably there right now. He is much more advanced than me in every such technology. He is only a 10th grader, and he has the best mobile in our house amongst all members of the family. He only is the one who will find out where I'm present in social media and bring it to my attention that, sir, you are here. Last evening, I was trying to tell him that today I'll be going for my breakfast a little early and therefore you should be ready. He said, I know that you are having a session tomorrow morning at 9. I think with that, can I call it that this divide is a divide? No, he's much better than me in terms of awareness. Yesterday afternoon, he was talking about some reservations for his friends, and he was great deal explaining me about Red Bus because I have never done the bus reservations and I have
Yes.
never traveled in buses. But he was able to explain me the features of Red Bus and various other things which are there. So I think today, every Indian, typically a person who is in teens, possibly can be said to be owning a mobile. And they are doing something with that mobile, whether it's news or information or education or whatever it may be. And therefore, the gap is getting bridged. And therefore, this divide, I agree, divide was there, but I'm saying it's going to be a provide henceforth. That's the
Yeah.
version I
Thank you,
have.
Sandeep, for that. And those are all very powerful examples. We are down to the last 10 minutes, and I want to cover one important topic that I know is close to your heart as well, which is this whole credit based and the credit banking idea.
Mhm.
And then I want to take some of the questions from the audience also. So if you could quickly touch on this idea of the academic credit bank and how credits can, how does all of this then reconcile with the points you've made about personalization, job roles, continuous learning, and the degrees getting disrupted?
Sure, Pramadji. I won't mind if it takes 5 minutes more if your time, if your
No,
session.
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah,
Okay,
we can.
okay, fine. Thank you so much. So I will answer this particular point in two parts. One is the ABC itself with the reference to NEP. which most of us know, and we must have heard umpteen number of times the experts and others talking about that. But ABC is where I have worked with the policy framing, and therefore I can give a slightly better insight, though time is a limitation. And if there are any questions on that, I can possibly answer that. So ABC is nothing but Academic Bank of Credit. And Academic Bank of Credit means credit will be the mainstay. Credit is what today everyone earns in CBCS system. Credit-based scheme is what we basically call it, CBCS. And therefore, credit will be the new currency of education. It will not be degrees. It will not be admissions. It will not be specializations. You will take admission into certain credits, and that's it. If that credit suffices for your survival or moving further, you will enjoy that. Still, if you want to convert into, it's something like, if I have money, I'm happy with money, I'm surviving, taking whatever little. But if I want to buy big house, big car, do whatever with that money, I can do. So credit will be my new currency, my new money. And therefore, it will take the education into a very, very different format. Right now, it's in a completely packaged format. I actually give this example, is slightly infamous or famous, you can say, that in the conventional education, you enter at zeroth here at this point. Let's say if this is the pipeline of education, you enter at zeroth here, and after 4 years, you come out of this pipe. In between, nothing happens. You cannot do anything. If you have failed in one subject, you are dead. You don't get a degree, and you are termed as a failure. Your life is going to become miserable. I think that cannot be the life, actually. Life is success after many failures also. And that is what the multiple entry and multiple exit will provide. And therefore, this pipe is going to become a leaky pipe. So when I say leaky pipe, people don't like it. They say, no, we don't want leaky pipes. I will say open-ended pipe or multi-slotted pipe or whatever name you can give to this. So multiple entry, multiple exit will happen from this particular pipe. And that is important. So ABC is going to make that happen. Once I'm going out many times, coming in any times, my mind may change. I started with engineering. Second year, when I come back, I'll think, no, maybe I'll do something in management, because ultimately I'll try to be a manager somewhere. When I go to management in second year, I still find that, no, I'm not very happy. My cravings are for performing arts, let's say something like that. I'm very good at that, and I'll change to that. ABC will allow all such things. Right now, you are in a very tight stream fixation, which will be opening up according to your desire, wish, your interest, and you can change direction a number of times. And when doing so, you can do it from one institution, the second one, the third one. You can go to a national level institution. You can go to institutions in India or outside also. Various things you can do. On top of that, you can do it in any languages or many languages. You can do it at any speed or many speeds, if you may say so. You can imagine what you want as a student possibly would be available to you in ABC, in my opinion. And that is what would mean really student autonomy and personalization. I may give you an example. A student may come to a teacher that I don't want to write the examination. Well, how will the teacher react? Teacher will say, oh, fine, it's up to you, but you will not graduate. No, I can still give an answer. I'll speak in the examination. I'll give a spoken examination, then written. Technology permits me that. I will not sit in the examination. I'll stand in the examination and give, because technology will permit me to do such things, various things. What I'm saying is those notions will have to change. Cover the course, uncover the course. Teachers around the subjects, subjects around the teachers. All those notions will have to be changed for us. ABC is going to make that happen. And with that, there'll be more quest for knowledge and less orientation for degree. That's my take. And then, of course, it will support the continuous education, matured education, various other things which are there. Government of India is likely to make a vehicle for that. You probably have heard about NAD, National Academic Depository. So we have now gotten rid of all those dramas where our verifications and false degrees and various things happen. ABC will also be a repository of this kind, and that's why the name bank has been given to this. And there all your records, information, time, etc. will be available. Credits will have certain validity. You can convert this currency into some other currency with some charges, some equivalences, and so on and so forth. So that's the ABC scheme. And I hope people will take advantage, and I'm sure the institutions and the students are ready to take the advantage of that. The only caveat there is The bad ones will not survive very easily in this kind of a changing world. But
Yeah.
who wants a bad one anyway? Only
Right.
the bad people, not the good people. And we are good people, supposedly good people. So we'll follow what is right. The second thing about this aspect, I think I'll answer it in two parts. The second is ABC cannot happen without technology. And there is not enough time to explain to you. I have a very good set of technologies to name right now, which will be impacting the world. And I'm just giving you 6 or 7 names each in two categories. Number one, which are currently helping us. One is a smart classroom. Number two, 4G, or maybe now some advanced places, 5G also. Then 3D printing, then text to speech and speech to text, Alexas and Google Assistants and all those are doing. And there are lots of other tools which are there. NLP and all that is becoming very common. Proctoring and biometric, limited use of AI, but still being used for examinations, etc. And then social networking, blogging and other open sources, Khan Academy and other things are coming. And then, of course, virtual labs, which I already explained to you, are possibly the things which are already happening. And these are technological aspects, and they're supporting the current set of education. But if I go to the future set of education, Pramath, I'll possibly like to say, these are the new technologies which are going to redefine the education. And very soon you will see, in my opinion, number one would be AI will be used extensively. For a question which you asked me, I'll answer that. If my class is big, what do I do? I heard a young person of New South Wales University in US who was invited by Microsoft. He made a case study and presented to all of us. And he said that he's handling a class of 500 students in a given subject. He's probably less than 30 in terms of age. And with all the data, details, and technology, he claimed he is giving personalized education to all the 500 students. I would like some of you or some of us to go through that case study. I'm not the one who will invite someone very easily or accept someone's versions very easily. But I was one of the first one to go to him and tell him that, hey, you have to come to India and tell us what you are doing and how you are doing. So that is the power of AI, and he used AI. So AI will be used for that. Also slow learner, fast learner, tracking, eye contact, how attentive I am in the class, all that will be known. So it's not only examination. AI has to go much beyond, and also to the counseling. If Sandeep Sancheti is not in right direction with his aims and objectives, AI should do the counseling. Like we have GPS, always giving you a route guidance. I think a counseling system should give you the academic guidance or professional guidance should be there. The second aspect of advancing will be augmented and virtual realities. Traces are there, but it is going to come. I gave you the example of history. The third will be game-based learning. I think we were all averse to games. The name game in the class itself, we were kind of, we'll get fired, and how can you play games and bring mobiles and all. And today we are begging our students to play those games and do game-based learning in mobiles. And game-based learning is more deeper, more sensitive, and more complete. And I've seen my kids learning through that, and they were much better than me in doing something which they were doing with the game base. The next one would be, these three will be the most important, wearable devices. By the way, Google I/O, which was done only a week back or 10 days back, it's their annual event where they announce new things. And similarly, possibly Amazon reInvent, which was there in 2019. And they talked about many such things. Wearable technologies or devices will be very big. Computers will be worn by you. Everything which you want to capture, acquire will be captured directly through your specs or something else, which is there. You don't have to write the notes and all that, which is important. The next technology will be flexible displays. There'll be a folded LCD, which will be there, and which will be your examination board, which will be your table, which will be your copy, which will be your textbook, which will be a blog, which will be everything. You fold it like a drawing sheet and hang it on your back and go back. You don't have to carry too many books and different notes and whatever it may be. So that will be another thing which will be there. And the last thing will be the change in the mode of operation which we are doing right now. You are seeing me in 2 dimensions, and I'm also seeing you in 2 dimensions. What if we were present with each other in 3 dimensions? The holographic devices, the holographic presence, the holographic technology, and that will once again make the eye contact, which we are all crying about. The eye contact is not there. I don't feel that I'm sitting in front of my friends and teachers. I think all that is going to vanish. So technology has an answer to everything. Obviously, it will take its own time and will have its own cost. The only thing we need to be cautious about it. We don't overly be dependent on that. We use it judiciously, and that is why the word blended will be most important for us. us.
Sure. Sandeep, it is 10 o'clock, and I want to just say that we'll take a few more minutes to take a few
Sure.
questions. Thank you for sparing the time. And I do want to thank all our viewers because some of them may be dropping off because they may have things at 10 o'clock. But thank you so much for joining us. And Sandeep, when everybody's there, I want to just thank you for what has been a scintillating session and excellent stuff. We could have gone on for much longer, but it's a morning and I'm sure everybody's going to be busy. So I just want to take a few questions, Sandeep, very quickly. Since we were on this topic of credits, there are a few questions that have come up. One is, how do you differentiate between a credit from a good university and a bad university, or call it a not so great university, on a same fluid mechanics course, for example? So Deepak Mon asked this question. If you can quickly take that.
Deepak ji, it's a difficult task. How do you differentiate between a good person and a bad person, a good friend and a bad friend? It takes time, and sometimes you fail and sometimes it happens. Fortunately, in education space, the quality measures and checks and balances and transparencies are coming in. What they do, when they do, how they do, they prove it, they improve it, all that is on record, available. If you really want to be sure whether it's coming from a good quality, obviously, you can check all those things which were till now not present. What I used to do in class was my private thing. It would not go out. Now with the devices, everyone knows what Sandeep Sancheti does in class. And then otherwise, there are so many other traces which are available. So the quality is going to change, but even if it doesn't change, you will be able to measure it and you'll know what is right or wrong. For ABC part, government is making sure that we will go with some certifications like accreditations and other things which are there to make sure that no one is duped, no one is put to any difficulty.
I think online accreditation will come in, which will accredit these online courses as well. Accreditation will also happen at the course level, I think.
Yeah, so those avenues are open, surely. Yeah.
One quick question, will ABC be part of NAD as you mentioned or separate? I think you are saying that it will be integrated.
No, NAD, no, I never said integrated. NAD, like I said, NAD is NAD is only information dissemination, authentic information dissemination, so that you don't have to go through a longer route and face the difficulties. And particularly, you can eliminate the false and the fabricated degrees very easily with that. So NAD was only information retrieval, storage kind of a thing.
Yeah.
ABC is more for transactionary nature, like we do in the bank. I'll deposit the credits, institutions will deposit the credit, I'll encash the credits, and so on and so forth. Obviously, the credits will not earn interest in this particular case, but I'll encash that. And therefore, it's a slightly trajectory in nature. NAD is not trajectory in nature. It will be a different vehicle, by the way.
And Satish Sangu is asking, can a recording be available? Yes, Satish, recordings will be available of this on YouTube and other. You should get a link to this after this is over. Sachin Khedkar asked the question, if a person gathers 200 credits, how do you decide which degree they will be granted? And if credits have been earned from various sources, who would agree to, which university would agree towards a degree? How does that work?
Very interesting question. I wish I had answered it earlier while explaining ABC, but time was not enough, so I did not. It's not the university which is going to answer. It's actually the student himself or herself is to take a call on that. If you're done 200 credits, you can get on 50 credits, you may get a diploma, or on 100 credits, you may get a master's, or 150 credits, you may get a graduation. So I don't know which degree you are seeking. Number one, credits will have their validity. Best before or date of expiry will be there. If I earn a credit in advanced technology today, 20 years later, I cannot say that I know the advanced technology. So credit will also have a life. So number one, you have to keep in mind that those 200 credits, when have they been earned and what is their life? Life generally will be 8 to 10 years, in my opinion. I'm not the authority, but that's my expectation. That's something like that is what we have projected in the report. So it will be valid. However, this doesn't mean that you will take the institution to ransom. Institution will also have a choice. They will also make a public scheme under ABC. Anyone wanting a degree under ABC from us will have so-and-so requirements. IIT can say something, IIM can say something, NIT can say something, Marwadi can say something. This is what we want. That 30% of the courses should be done from our place, is what I can say if I want. We are capping that at 50%, that no one should do more than 50%, but 30% or 40% can be there. because I want to give you the knowledge of group working, the philosophies which we follow, the value systems which we have, the vision and the attributes which we want to deliver to you. All that will happen only once you are with me. So those norms will be given by the institution. There may be 10 institutions fitting the norm under which you can get the degree. You can go to any one of them. Now, the last answer I want to give you, which is more interesting, is you have done 20 credits from engineering, 20 from medical, 20 from arts, 20 from management, 20 from, let's say, hotel management, 20 from pharmacy. Just for sake of discussion, I'm saying. Now you go to any institution and you say that, give me engineering degree, they say you don't have enough credits. You go to medical, they'll say you don't have enough credits. What will you do? The answer is already built in our scheme there. We are going to coin a new degree called Bachelor of Liberal Education. And in that Bachelor of Liberal Education, you have to justify why you took those courses and why you have made your degrees out of those courses or those credits which are there. So based on the requirement, you can get a degree of commerce, science, arts, provided you fulfill the norms of the university, which is there, number of credits which are there. And if you don't fulfill the norms fully, but you still have the credits, you may still get what we call Bachelor of Liberal Education. So in every sense, ABC is a fairly liberal.
Sorry, am I back? Was it my internet or your?
Yeah, you are back.
Yes. So
yeah, somewhere some internet
yeah.
connectivity.
Thank you. I think that clarifies, and looks like there's a lot of thinking around this. And some people have been asking for your email ID. So if there's an ID that you feel comfortable sharing, we can put it on the chat.
Sure, sir. My official email ID is provost@marwadiuniversity.ac.in would be a fine.
Yeah, so
right.
provost@marwadiuniversity.ac.in. If one of the people from Harappa Education can type it in, that will be great. A
Sure.
couple of last questions as we wind down. Maybe we'll go till 10:15 and we'll stop there.
Sure. No.
So one specific question, since you spoke about virtual labs, that I want to take is that Abha Singh asks that, is the cost of these labs something that is large, and will it again get into question of equity and equality and providing it to all people across the country? And there's another question from Vijay Gupta, which says that a lot of the virtual labs developed through MHRD seems to be nothing more than computer simulations and doesn't really fulfill any valid learning objective. So just quick reactions to those.
Fine. That I'm happy that a very pertinent and important question has been asked. I have been a very strong advocate for virtual labs since 2010. The very first model which I conceived was called as SOLVE, Students Online Laboratory through Virtual Experimentation. And I made sure that the institution which I was heading at that time, which was NITK Surathkal, took a plunge in that immediately the moment it was launched. And today, that particular effort is something like 40 crore investment. It's a 24/7 lab. It's the happening and the key lab of that institution. I might advise you, though I'm not connected with them right now, I might advise you strongly to go and visit NITK Surathkal, this thing, and see that particular virtual lab which is there. And they are now guiding entire Tamil Nadu through a IIT Chennai Alumni Association to do the virtual laboratories in a very, very big way. And that's all I can say, the potential which is there for them. And it does every kind of thing. And large number of mechanical and other disciplines are there, and they probably don't do anything in computers. The computer things are more omnipresent because of ease of that. IIT Hyderabad, IIT Hyderabad rather, are the nodal point for that. But you look at IIT Madras, IIT Kharagpur, I know that they have done the experimentations which are of mechanical, civil, electrical rather than computers alone. That is number one. Number two, these labs, you asked me a component of cost. Cost is always a subjective term, Pramathji, I would say, but I would say the cost comes down once the users become better. I've already told that rather than my lab used for 6 hours or 8 hours or 12 hours a week, I will use it 24/7. So that would possibly mean 168 hours for me to use. So imagine 10 times uses are going up. So the cost has to come down. Cost also will come down because I cannot easily damage the equipment now. Cost will also become, see not the physical, the rupee cost in terms of
per unit.
reliability,
I know.
repeatability, reproducibility, or the impact. If it makes me learn, the cost is recovered very easily, even if it is slightly higher. I cannot do an experiment in virtual lab unless I have prepared myself. Whereas in most of my labs in my engineering degree, when I went to a lab, I went without preparation. Though my teacher kept saying you to come prepared for the lab, I didn't, and most of us didn't, unfortunately. Virtual lab will stop you from doing that unless you pass the test. Unless you do the right setting, the experiment will not happen. So you'll have to prepare it very well. And the last thing is, the cost is not really for the ordinary thing which you eat as dal or roti. Everyone gets it and should get it. Yes, everyone is seeing those demo things which are 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 rupees. Cost is that I'm an electronics engineer. I need vector network analyzer, which is 5 crores. I need transmission electron microscope, which is 5+ crores for materials and mechanical and metallurgy. Do I get it in ordinary institutions? Can I have access to that? No. The real thing with the virtual lab is that you can access the costly equipment, get trained, get certified, and remove the fear what that costly thing, big thing is, which I've never seen in my life. I already gave you the example of high performance computing, which we have done in Marwadi University, because we want our IT people to not to have an aura or a fear of that, oh, I never knew, my teachers never taught me, what is that? So that will happen through the virtual lab. So in effect, the cost, don't look at the dollar or rupee just which you are putting from your pocket. Look at the overall thing and you'll find the cost is much, much lesser and the impact is much more superior.
Yeah, in the field of business, we call it sort of the total cost of ownership, which is not just the financial value, but the qualitative aspects of convenience and quality and reliability that you talked about.
That's right.
Unfortunately, we are kind of down to the last 3 minutes. So I want to, I want to recognize a quick comment that Dr. Anchal Jain made. I think for your leaky pipe, she's provided a good alternative. She's saying it's like a flute.
Okay.
And I was thinking about that. I think that's a
Very
great
nice.
idea because, you know, in a flute, you use your fingers to customize, right? You can play whatever note you want.
Okay.
And you can assemble these notes to create a tune. So I think
thanks
that's
to Dr. Anchal Jain. Thanks to you also for sharing it. Very nice.
So
I'll use it. I'll
yes,
use it with her permission.
I think we can use it very nicely. I would like us to end, Sandeep, on a note which I think a lot of people who are committed educators are asking. So what are we losing in the kind of human element, the human element of teachers being mentors and guides? And some people asked about peer learning and the fact that, you know, the social learning and learning to be an adult is a big part of college education. How do you see that? Is it a necessary trade-off that we will have to make, or are there ways around that also, or minimizing that also?
Life is always a trade-off, Pramathji. I know that, and I accept that. And if you have to be successful, this trade-off will have to be done at every point of time. You cannot get everything which you want as the best. If you accept that the face-to-face teaching is the best, try it, but you may not get the best teacher.
Yeah.
Even if there is a best teacher, you may not get the best institution. Even if you do the best institution, let's say in India and best teacher, it may be that you are not the best student and therefore you may not get the best company to, or best job or best profile. Where is this best going to end?
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried. So let people draw their own lines. Forget about education. If I have to eat food, I think I should eat food which is cooked in a traditional way on angithi or in firewood or whatever those kind of things which are there. It will be very tasty. It should be organic, but do I get that? Can I get that? Can I afford that? Is it possible in the cities where I live? And if I get that, then why not my servant also? So the point is, where do you draw the line of satisfaction? What is right or what is not? Blending gives you 0 to infinite. Blending is not saying that use technology. You like face-to-face, you go to a place where only face-to-face is there, because those institutions may simply say that we don't want to go with the blending. Fine. A teacher may also say, I don't want to do it. There can be subjects which are completely face-to-face and not online. There might be certain skills which cannot be done. Let's say the mechanical engineering related skills will have to be done in workshops only. Of course, there are haptic technologies and other things which are there, but generally speaking, they would be best done. So what I'm saying is, it's for one to decide what is right and what is not right in terms of best. What is there best for you is not best for me, for sure. And therefore, let's remain to be different. Let's appreciate the new things which are coming to us, which adds value to the diversity, and diversity enriches us. If this diversity of technology was not there, and presume the COVID had occurred 10 years back in education, this would have been 2 years completely lost for our kids, maybe some of our own kids and some for others. But with the technology coming in, with the blending coming in, things have become much better. At least they're surviving. Yes, quality may be a little here and there. No one is denying that. I'm not saying that one answer is perfect and second is perfect. No, but still the show goes on with this kind of a thing. That's my take.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. And this has been a fascinating session. And some of the uh, comments are also showing me that people have really enjoyed the session. Somebody Mahesh Gudar just called it an awesome interaction, which is a very millennial term, but we are all living in these times. So thank you so much again. It's been very educational and very interesting for me personally. I'm going to shamelessly borrow and use some of your ideas.
Pramath, these are all common, not my ideas. We learn from each other and then we promote, propagate it.
No,
and I must thank our audience also. Yes. Particularly the flute example was a very nice one. And that's the beauty of co-learning and being connected like this.
Absolutely. So in fact, we have shown that even with technology, we can be very human.
Yeah.
And that is possible. And such a quality interaction would just not have been possible, right?
Yes.
You, me, all the listeners. So I think we should also give credit where it's due. Thank you again very much. Thank you very much to the audience for joining. We do this every 2 weeks on Thursdays. And I hope to see you soon again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you, Pramath.
Thank you.